Yo, what's up boys? It's Betta-ah here. I hope you're having an amazing day and welcome to my Poison Summon Raging SrS Necromancer League Starter for Crucible. I originally created this build back in 3.19 as my very own League Starter that I took all the way through until the endgame without any issues, and I highly recommend it for 3.21 as it was not heavily nerfed and it's still a solid, chilled and stress-free build. Also, considering this league is based around channeling the league mechanic, it's perfect as you can ramp up both your SRS and the league mechanic while being extra safe, letting the minions do all of the work for you while clearing the crucible itself to get those moist skill points on weapons. Starting off, you'll play as a traditional SRS build to farm up some currency to switch to poison later on. Going through the campaign is quick and easy by relying on only 2 4 links and 1 center maps. All you really need is 6 chaos for a 5 link body armor and a decent shield with life gain on block. Maybe some other filler gear pieces depending on your resistances, and then you'll be pretty much sorted until the end of yellow maps where you can switch to poison, or maybe you can even switch earlier depending on if you get a few lucky drops. The build is really tanky early on, with around about 40 to 80k effective hit pool and 2 to 5 million pinnacle boss DPS with around about 100 chaos investment or less depending on the market. This will then carry you through your T16 maps and all of the early bossing, including guardians and like SrS and stuff like that, rather comfortably to acquire the gear for endgame. With this being said, I will be live playing the build as my own league starter, so smack that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with my latest live streams and videos I put out so you can progress with me. The pros of the build is decent mapping clear speed, really good boss DPS with the poisons, it's easily achievable gearing especially from league start as it needs almost nothing to get to early red maps while clearing the campaign really quickly. And it's also a minion build, so you don't have to worry about face tanking damage all too much, allowing you to focus more on boss mechanics and what's basically happening on screen. The cons, it's of course a minion build and it's not desired by everyone, as you might feel like you're doing absolutely nothing. And the build can get very expensive if you do desire to do uber content at a later stage, and the build also struggles with less recovery and degens, but that can be countered just by playing a little bit safer. And lastly, it's not a super speedy zoom omega one-shot bosses, but it gets the job done comfortably. How the build works effectively is we give our SRS a 100% chance to poison via a chance to poison support gem and ghastly eye jewels really early on. By stacking up a lot of attack speed, they are able to apply the poisons really quickly, reducing the ramp up time, and as SrS naturally has 100% of physical damage transferred to fire damage, we take advantage of massive amounts of extra flat chaos damage to ensure that SrS applies really strong potent poisons. To further increase the overall damage of the build, we make use of wither stacks, jewels, a despair curse, an animate guardian for support and some support specters too, and our ascendancy along with zombies as a meat shield. Our defense is capped resistances, positive chaos resistance. It's also got 60% plus attack and spell block without glancing blows, a decent amount of armor from our determination and the skill tree, along with quite a decent amount of life regeneration and bone armor too. Later on, we'll get Fortify, crit immunity, and enfeeble on hit from our guardian, along with capped spell suppression and an Aegis Aurora in conjunction with Mind Over Matter to obtain near immortality with the build, obviously at a higher budget. In terms of the playstyle, it is very relaxed, while being able to summon up to 4 SRS at a time from Unleash. What makes SRS even better is that they will often off-screen enemies while they wander to the nearest enemy, and you can freely pick up all of your fat loots. When bossing, SRS will lock on to the boss, allowing you to easily position yourself to avoid mechanics and to better understand fights if you're not really familiar with them. So it's also pretty much a beginner friendly build, I guess you could say. You should ensure that your bone offering is kept up at all times though, and can be done so by using Arcanus Brand to automatically proc it, and your curse. And you must also use Convocation to keep your minions near and out of harsh damage while flame dashing for utility. So If this piques your serious poisonous senses, then drop a like on the video and share it to help others find their potential league starter. Alright, I just quickly want to address the changes for 3.21, being that the United in Dream will no longer have the increased minion damage on it, so we lose about 800,000 total damage. However, this will be made up with the Darkness Enthroned buff, seeing as though the increased effect can roll up to 100%, and this will make it so that we gain probably 30, at max 40% of our total damage back. So it's not a train smash at all. We have not lost anything else in terms of the build. It is still very, very solid. We also gain the protection mastery now, so you can ignore all of the curse modifiers from rolling your maps and that stuff, making the build a lot more smoother, especially early on in mapping and that stuff. It is really, really good. Other than that, we also now have got the increased mana reservation efficiency of skills back. Yes! This makes things so much easier, because we are already taking Mystic Bulwark for the chance to block spells and that. This gives us access to the increased mana reservation efficiency of skills, so we can run all of our auras very comfortably. And because this will reserve all of your mana, you don't have to worry about casting your SRS at all, seeing as though we are using Eldritch Battery. So all of your skills, including Arcanus Brand proccing in that, it's going to use Energy Shield instead. Right, and other than that, there is no other changes for me to note. The build is still perfectly fun, and I believe it's going to be absolutely incredible, and I hope that everyone will enjoy it as much as I'm going to. Okay, so with that out of the way, it's now time to move on to how you will level the build exactly. Underneath the notes in the path of building, which I will have linked down below in the description for you, all of the information is here. In terms of Act 1, you'll start off with Freezing Pulse, and by level 8 you'll ditch it for Summon Raging Spirits and use Holy Flame Totem and Clarity and Vitality early on, along with Flesh Offering, just to make things smoother through the act. And then once into Act 2, you must pick up a Strength Belt and Dexterity Amulet. It's very important. And then you must also pick up your Skitterbots and link that to Infernal Legion for even more damage. And then once into Act 3, you'll want to start using your Raise Zombies with Feeding Frenzy and Minion Speed and Culling Strike, just to make things a lot smoother while killing enemies and that. And then of course get your Raise Spectre, which you should only use from around about Act 5 with Carnage Chieftains, and then your Animate Guardian, which you'll only use in maps. And then you will want to drop your Skitterbots and your Vitality while keeping Clarity at somewhat of a low level, so you're not reserving all of your mana, so you can still cast your Summon Raging Spirits. And then you must use Determination and Purity of Elements. This is very, very good early on. Once into Act 4, of course, you'll then start using a Carrion Golem and Multi-Strike and that, which really does speed up the build by a large margin. Right, so once into early maps, you must run the following auras and that. You must also note that when using Malevolence linked to Divine Blessing, you will have to have at least 550 Energy Shield. Other than that, you must follow everything according to the guide. Except you must ignore the links for SRS itself until you switch to Poison, and when doing so you should follow this here for the 5 link very early on, and then instead of the Despair Curse, which I have got for the Poison setup, you can use Punishment or Flammability as a placeholder in the meantime. Right, then important things to note while leveling is the Helmet Vendor recipe for +1 to level of minion skills. You will need a Life Flask, which has got the % of life recovery to minions, 1 Orb of Transmutation, and a Bone Shield. It does not matter on the item level or anything like that. You just sell it to a vendor and boom, you'll have a free +1 helmet. However, achieving to find a Bone Spirit Shield early on might prove to be a little bit troublesome. Other than that, you must use Carnage Chieftains for the Frenzy charges as soon as possible. And then while going through the acts and that, if you do encounter any essences of fear, you should throw that onto your weapons or even your gloves for the extra minion damage, which is really, really good. Once you are getting into early maps, you should get a 5-link body armor as soon as possible, along with a shield which has got life gain on block. And then you must save up all of your currency in order to transition to the early poison, whereby you'll need plus minus 100 chaos. At this point in time, it's really difficult to tell what the market prices will be, but I do expect it to be somewhat really, really cheap at least. And if it is going to be expensive, I do apologize in advance. Right, and then once into late yellow maps, you will have to transition to poison and follow the skill gems and supports and gear according to my my current setup with the early bossing over here. Okay, and other than that, should you need any help with the build, then I highly recommend that you should join my Discord. The link is down below in the description, and just pop a question under the help section and I will try my very best to answer it as soon as possible. Alright, and then also in terms of leveling, underneath the tree here, I have got trees for each and every single act, which is the ideal pathing to take per act. So Act 1, you'll rush for Enduring Bond. Act 2, you're going to rush for the Spiritual Command and for Retribution specifically. And then once into Act 3, you must go ahead and grab Sovereignty in order to fit your Determination and your Purity of Elements with Clarity. Remember to keep your Clarity at a low level, otherwise you will reserve all of your mana and encounter huge issues. Right, and then moving into Act 4, we pick up Righteous Army and Redemption for the minion damage and attack speed, which is really, really valuable. And then into Act 5. Oh wait, I forgot to mention that when in Act 3, you must pick up the Minion Defense Mastery, whereby minions recover 5% of minion life on death. Now, when your SRS expires, while the duration expires, this counts as minion death as well, giving all of your minions 5% life recovery. Okay, then Act 5 is just pretty much pathing down towards Grave Pact, picking up some life. And once into Act 6, you'll want to pick up your Grave Pact and maybe some extra resistances over here with practical application, should you not be resistance capped. And then moving over onto Act 7, grabbing just some extra life and reduced mana cost of skills. And then into Act 8, you must grab Outreach Battery, and then you can drop Clarity and then put in Vitality instead. This will make the build a lot smoother, getting closer to maps and once into maps too. And then of course we are going to start picking up all of the block nodes, so you must grab Sanctuary in Act 9, and for Act 10 you must pick up Safeguard. And then for early mapping, it is pretty much to just grab Influence and the Mystic Bulwark once again for block, but more importantly for the mana reservation efficiency. This way you can fit all 4 of your auras and be able to run the Divine Blessing with Malevolence as well. Right, then for the Ascendancy, early Act 4, well, end of Act 3, early Act 4, you must pick up Command of Darkness for the extra minion damage and the elemental resistances. Really, really helpful. And then once you are in Act 7 for your Cruel Lab, you must grab Mindless Aggression, once again for minion damage, minion attack speed. And then by the time you get to Act 10, you should do your Merciless Lab to pick up Mistress of Sacrifice. As we are starting to go into block and that, this is very, very helpful, as it will help you get to the block cap much quicker with your Bone Offering. And then once into earlier maps, you'll want to go ahead and pick up Bone Barrier for the extra physical damage reduction and recovery, but more importantly for the minions have more maximum life, and the Bone Armor mitigating bleeds on our precious minions and yourself. Once you are into your early white maps and everything, as I mentioned previously, all you're going to need is to just get a 5-link body armor. This will cost about 5 at max 10 chaos, along with a shield which has got life gained on block. This might be about 2 chaos, maximum 5 chaos I expect. All you're going to need is just some minion damage on a Convoking Wand, preferably by using a Essence of Fear on it. And then for your helmet, you should try and pick up a Bone Helmet for the extra minion damage that's got some life resistances. It's pretty much the same thing for the gloves as well, with the minion damage using the Essence of Fear. And then your boots, you should get ones which have got movement speed, a little bit of chaos resistance on either of your rings, amulets, or boots, or even your chest or so. You're just pretty much going to fill up your resistances to make sure that you are resistance capped, along with having at least positive chaos resistance early on. And you must use a amethyst flask too to ensure that you have positive chaos resistance. You can expect to have about maybe 1 million DPS very early on in the white maps, and potentially 40,000 effective hit pool. However, it will most likely be a little bit lower, but this will get you through your white maps really quickly, and all the way until the end of yellow maps, so you can acquire a currency and that stuff, so then you can eventually switch over to poison. Moving over now to when you have got enough currency to switch to poison, which is going to be around about 50 to 100 chaos, depends on the market. As I mentioned, I cannot foresee, and I do apologize if especially the United in Dream is going to be expensive, but I don't think it will be that expensive. Okay, so you must ensure to get the United in Dream for the 60% chance to poison enemies on hit, and then you should have your chance to poison support gem. This enables you to have a 100% chance to poison. However, should you not be able to get a United in Dream, you can use just a normal convoking wand, once again with the minion damage, and then underneath the skills over here, you must enable haste, as you won't be running the envy aura. So instead of running the envy aura, which naturally comes from the United in Dream, you will instead use haste for more attack speed for your minions. This just helps to ensure that your damage is more than enough, which is at around about 2.5 million. So your chance to poison gives 40% chance. Okay, now you might be wondering, how do I get the other 60% chance? Well, it's pretty easy. So on a Darkness Enthroned, all you're going to need is 2 Ghastly Ardules, which have got minions have a chance to poison on hit. I suspect that these may be really expensive early on, but that's the only mod that you're really looking for to put into the Darkness Enthroned. And then of course you will need another 2 of them. The rolls do not matter as well, so you will need 4 of these jewels in total. And should you be confused on how much chance to poison, you can just import your character into Path of Building, select the socket group for Summon Raging Spirits, show the minion stats, and then underneath poison over here, it will show you the total amount of chance that they have to poison, and it will tell you exactly where it is coming from. So that will make things a lot easier on you to ensure that you have a 100% chance to poison, which is very important. Right, other than that, we will then be using a Jinx Juju with Death Attunement. This is just to help out on survivability, so 10% of all damage from hits is taken from our 3 Spectres life instead, just to ensure we are a little bit more tanky, especially for red mapping and so forth. So for the shield is just a life gain on block again. Your helmet is just going to be minion damage again with resistances and life. The same thing with your chest piece. You should try and get one that's got energy shield on it in order to have at least 800 energy shield, as using Malevolence with Divine Blessing will take about, I think it's 600 to 800. Well, fully leveled, it takes almost 800, I believe it is. I'm probably wrong there. And other than that, for your gloves, once again, is just minion damage. Boots is just movement speed. And for your rings is a little bit of resistances, mainly chaos resistance that you're going to have to get on at least 1 ring, and maybe strength and dexterity, depending on how much you have. The total requirements that you will need with haste is 155 dexterity. If you do not have enough dexterity, you can always just pick up alacrity on the skill tree and just get another item which has got like another 20 dexterity or so, until you can afford a United in Dream. And then the belt is Darkness Enthroned, of course, and that for your flasks you must use a Quicksilver and a Granite and a Quartz along with a Jade. This is all for defensive wise and speed mainly, just to make things a lot easier. Should you have the United in Dream, then you must not have the minions have a chance to poison on hit on your Ghastly Ardules. What you really want to look for on the Ghastly Ardules then is flat added chaos damage, such as this one right here. And one of them should have a chance to blind on hit with attacks as well. This is just to raise the overall chaos damage, so the poisons are even more potent. And then just quickly going over onto the skill tree, you must pick up Asylum as well for chaos resistance, and then just pick up a few extra dual sockets for that extra flat chaos damage that you're going to benefit from. Alright, and then also underneath the item set, I've also included just some very starter items for your Animate Guardian, which must be a Dying Breath for the extra minion damage and increased effect of curses on enemies nearby, and the Leocast for the increased damage as well. Other than that, I just pretty much threw on a random body armor, gloves, and boots with some laugh. You can pretty much just put on any other uniques that you see fit. This is just a very basic setup for the time being. Underneath the configuration, I've already added these in for the Animate Guardian, so you do not have to worry about that. Alright, and that is the entire guide. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. Should you choose to play the build, remember that I'll be live streaming it, and I'll also be releasing update videos on my progress in that, so you can progress with me. And if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell as well to stay updated with my latest videos and live streams. Also, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe share it with a fellow Exile, so you can help them find their potential league starter, maybe. Alrighty then, thanks for watching Exile, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.